Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, the live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, a.k.a. Caliban, and when it comes to chairs for your ready room, I've got two words for you: stability balls. Joining me on the show, as usual, is my co-host. She's also the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast, a more or less family-friendly celebration of geekdom. It's Ella Pearson. Ella, welcome back to Discoverage.
Thank you.
Ella, we did it. It's the fourth week of 23 weeks of Trek.
Here.
I have not heard much in the way of extra branding, in fact, or as far as 23 weeks of Trek goes. That was a big push before Lower Decks started, but they're not. I figured we'd be counting down.
I would like a countdown. I think it would center me. I would have a sense of time that I've lost for the past 6 months.
Right. Yeah, we're all swirling in another world of no time. And so to be able to know what rung I'm at on the 23 weeks ladder would boost my spirits, I believe.
We have all ascended together. And now we're like, the concept of time doesn't exist.
Why does it hurt so much? Yes. Also joining us on the show tonight, a musician and a podcaster and the host of podcasts, I should say, like Pro Wrestling Required Viewing, Virtual Theater, and the Backtracking Show here on the Just Enough Trope Network. It's Gooey Fame. Gooey, welcome back to the show.
Hey, a good chair, you want to get one that like you can do the Riker mount on. You can just sneak up on from behind and mount that chair.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's been the problem in the past with HR. But like, who knows what kind of beanbag technology they've got in the 24th century? We could be going all kinds of places with this.
Yeah,
well,
that sounds wonderful.
It's great to have you back on the show. How are you holding up during the continuing COVID crisis?
Keeping on. I'm an essential worker, so I'm on there on the front lines. And, So, I'm maintaining a somewhat normal schedule than what I had before, compared to what I had before. It's just everything is weird,
Yeah.
It's like the same, but weirder. And people are mad because they got to wear masks at me,
Yeah. Nobody's happy about that. Have you been keeping yourself busy with I've been plowing through seasons of old Star Trek and trying to watch old movies, but how are you entertaining yourself?
I always like to give myself projects. So, I do stuff for the website Zelda Dungeon, and I decided right before COVID, I was like, let's do a project where we do a deep dive on a Zelda game a month. So I'm playing a game every month, and then I said, how about I do a series where I do a video for every Zelda dungeon. So I'm just constantly giving myself homework for games that I like to play, and everything is now a task. So that's how I'm keeping myself busy.
Where can people find out more about Zelda Dungeon?
It's everywhere. It's Twitter, Facebook, zeldadungeon.net, and I do stuff. I do videos over on the YouTube. Yeah, where we do rankings and we play the games and stuff. So it's if you're into the Legend of Zelda, that's the place you want to go. And I'm sure if you've needed a guide, you've probably found it.
Yeah. I've been trying to also relax by playing video games, but it's so impossible to find any time to do it. I feel like I sit down and immediately I got to hit pause and do something else. And my partner will be out, maybe she'll be like coming home from work and she sees the PS4 is on. She's like, how's the game? I'm like, oh no, that's paused from the last time I had to get up and go do something else. So the game is fine without me, I guess.
Yeah. And you know what? I decided to start playing Death Stranding. And I was like, this is too real right now.
Yeah. We got to unite this country a little bit with Monster Energy drinks.
Yeah, I got to make all these deliveries in the pandemic. And it's just like, and it's I'm trudging over the land and no one appreciates me.
I saw a video on the internet, one of those sites the other day, where a guy it was like a Nest doorbell video of a guy from DoorDash like delivering food, and as he's delivering it, there's like a drive-by shooting is going on like behind him. So he kind of ducks behind like a potted plant or something on the porch, and then he's like, okay, it's safe, and then he just kind of keeps going. And that's where you go into the app. That's where you go into the app and you try to give the guy a little more, like a 200% tip or something like that. But he's another essential worker, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's scary right now for so many reasons.
Be careful, everyone. But anyway, it's great to have you back on the show, Gooey. We've just seen the fourth episode of the new animated Star Trek series Lower Decks. It's an episode called Moist Vessel, and we're here to talk all about it. But first, as always, a warning. We're setting a course for the spoiler zone listeners, so be warned. We're glad you've decided to join us, but if you haven't seen the episode, spoilers are incoming. The official synopsis for Moist Vessel, just saying it, is Captain Freeman seeks the ultimate payback after Mariner blatantly disrespects her in front of the crew. A well-meaning Tendi accidentally messes up a lieutenant's attempt at spiritual ascension and tries to make it right. The episode was written by Ann Kim. It was directed by Barry J. Kelly, and the stardate for the episode is 57538.9. And there's a couple interesting aspects to this episode. This is the first episode of the series where Mariner calls Captain Freeman Mom, or acknowledges their relationship in any way. And I remember that part, but I don't think, maybe you guys can help me out, I don't think anybody else knows yet, or at least that we know, right?
I don't think so.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. So
it was kind of revealed recently, right? In like maybe the last episode?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's super important that they keep it secret, but but they do acknowledge it in this episode. This is the second episode of this series in which one of its main characters, in this case Mariner, is seen wearing multiple uniforms. She, of course, begins with the red, and she switches to the yellow after her promotion. There's a special guest star on this episode. Haley Joel Osment voices the character of O'Connor in this episode.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what that guy is. And
he's doing stuff.
He's definitely doing stuff. He's actually a pretty funny guy. He's been in some pretty funny movies. What do you guys think about the episode Moist Vessel?
You go first.
Yeah, Gooey.
Actually, the show's starting to grow on me more than I thought. We talked about episode 1 on backtracking, and I was kind of lukewarm. And this was one... after the first one, the past two, I had kind of like resigned myself to, I'll just kind of have it on and it's there, but I'm not really into it. And then I was like, okay, I'm here for the show. Let's just watch it. And I watched it and I pretty much enjoyed it. It's still, I feel more of a casual experience when I'm watching it, but I'm not like totally sucked in by the show. And I feel like it still has some issues, but for the most part, it's a pretty enjoyable watch.
Yeah. Ella, what about you?
Maybe I'm just more self-conscious about this because my roommate has been watching it with me, and she's not like a Trek fan, and so I feel like I'm more aware of like how it hits just any audience as opposed to like somebody who loves Star Trek like me. Yeah. But this episode in particular, I was like, I just felt like there was a little much going on. I still enjoyed it, but I felt like, especially today, I was really aware of like they're not making this show as like Disco felt like we want new people to get into Star Trek. We want this and this and this, and we want like new audiences and also old audiences.
Sure. And
I feel like with Lower Decks, they're like, we are making this for Trekkies. We're gonna reference Abraham Lincoln. We're gonna reference like you know what I mean. I still had fun, but like. It was a little bit busy for me just this week.
I felt that this episode was the first really kind of in-depth, like space kind of Star Trek episode. Do you know what I mean? I felt like the idea of like I love generation ship stories. The idea of having a generation ship and then something goes wrong, having another. I mean, I know our ship is hapless, but having another hapless ship there, like Picard's always saving, the Yamato or something like that. So having two ships and having them both be infected and having to kind of solve this. Like it was a good science plot. And it's not that, I mean, like, I think Lower Decks, has the mandate to do whatever they want, but just as far as, like you said, Ella, it was not exactly completely transparent for somebody coming from the outside. Like it was the most, I think, Star Trek-y it's been so far. For good or bad. I found myself enjoying that aspect of it, though.
I was actually kind of glad for it because it made it, because I've kind of viewed it as kind of a lighthearted experience. It was like, okay, yeah, it's kind of like a lighthearted. I know it's like an adult cartoon show, but it was like kind of like a lighthearted, more fun cartoon, but like almost classic vibe Star Trek experience. So I kind of liked it from that, as again, from a, like, I wasn't thinking too hard on it, but I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
They don't like meet the devil in this one. And
oh no! If only they went to places. If only they were as brave as the animated series. Yeah,
right. I was a little worried near the end of the show where the Genesis goo has gotten all through the ships and really messed them up. And I'm like, is this like the end of the show? Like, how are they going to fix this? But the solution they comes up with just clears that all out, so they're okay there.
That moment made me think, because one thing I'm struggling with the show is, does it need to be adult humor? Because a lot of times it feels like kind of like just like a fun, lighthearted kids show in terms of like, I'm not trying to like dog it, but like the writing and the storylines are like your average kind of like, it's pretty basic stuff. Like he disagrees with her mom. And then, but then they're cursing, but then it's censored. So I was like, why are we even doing this?
That's interesting. Yeah. And then you've got like, I think it is fairly straightforward and something that would appeal to kids. But then you've got jokes about the jizz filters in the holodeck or whatever, which is fair cop. I mean, that's an okay joke, but yeah, it's just like, I don't want to explain that to my kids. So, but then it's not always trying to completely go there with some of the stuff, because I feel like they probably are counting on like kids watching it too, maybe. Yeah. But when the ship was being destroyed, it made me think of like what I initially would hope is like maybe they should go in the other direction and just go out there. And it made me think of the Sea Lab 2021, that show where at the end of every episode the ship blew up or the lab blew up, and they never explained why. That they were there the next week, and I was like, they should either commit to like, they shouldn't blow up the ship every week, but just commit to the like adult nature and be more cutting edge, or it should be a kids show. I think I don't like this in between. That's the only thing I'm kind of mixed about. I think they need to pick a lane. Yeah, I definitely felt that this week. It might just be the marketing though, a little bit. Like you want to give adults permission to like it, they wouldn't watch a kids show. There's a show that was on. Oh boy, there was a show that was on the late lamented Yahoo screen called Other Space, I think it was called. It was created by Paul Feig, and it was a really low-budget sci-fi show. But the idea was, it was a Orville-esque kind of Star Trek ripoff where there's a Federation, and this young guy gets, the captaincy of a ship, and his crew is a bunch of, like, slackers, and they ran into these... There's a lot of humor in it. Was it James Franco or Dave Franco? Dave Franco was on one episode, but he turned out to be like a shape-shifting creature who turns into Dave Franco. But nobody wanted to kill him because he's Dave Franco. Life. He's so cute. So he played himself? Yeah, basically. But they combined humor with these very sort of, I don't want to say hard, but like out there sci-fi-y kind of plots. That I thought was really good. And of course, it was on Yahoo Screen, which is a total failure, and the show's gone and will never come back. But that's the kind of thing that I see as like, the template or what I'd like to get out of Lower Decks. But yeah, I don't know if they've quite got there yet. I think it's interesting that, we've had, actually you're the first guest we've had so far for Lower Decks, but everybody I talk to is, it's like Kombucha Lady, the meme on the internet. Everybody kind of Brittany Broski takes a sip of Lower Decks, and they're like, everybody has different reactions to it, and I think that's interesting.
the hive mind hasn't settled. We'll work out how we all collectively feel about it by the end of the series, I think.
Yeah, or historically, 25 years from now, looking back.
Right.
Once again, I'm the kombucha lady for Mariner. Once again, I'm just confronted with this character that I can't pin down, and I don't know how to feel about it. Like, she is such an asshole, like, especially like at the beginning of the episode. And I know that's like to set up, the plot, but I just don't understand why she is this way. And I think I finally had a breakthrough. I think I finally figured something out. She's Hawkeye from MASH. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, she's although Hawkeye was an officer. I don't remember his exact rank, but he was a little higher up. And so she wants to slack off. She has no respect for authority. We're a little past doing a Groucho Marx kind of thing, so she's not doing that. But, like, that's kind of her thing. And then the other, I didn't try to map every character to MASH, but Boimler is definitely like, I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who's like
Radar.
He could be Radar, but he's also kind of the XO guy who's always trying to catch Hawkeye, like doing things. He's the spoil sport. Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with that, though, is that Hawkeye was a brilliant surgeon. They couldn't fire him if they wanted to because they needed him out there. And I don't think Mariner can quite get away with that yet. And they actually bring up in this episode, why don't you just fire her? And I was like, yeah, why doesn't she fire her? Like, I know that the captain's her mom, but, why doesn't she just force her to transfer or just throw her off the ship?
I think they've shown her be inexplicably awesome at stuff though too, where it's like, oh,
yeah, but I don't. Does anybody know how good she is?
That's a good point. No,
yeah, her mom sees that she's really capable in this episode, I guess, but
it's meant to be surprising or something. But she's confident, when she's talking to she to some people, I guess, presents that way as I can do it if I want to, but I don't want to,
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if there's, maybe in the future we'll find out. I mean, there doesn't have to be something behind it, but if there's some reason why she fears authority or fears, I mean, clearly in this episode, it's as boring as she expects it to be. Like, he's going to play acoustic guitar about his time in Barcelona. It's like, yeah, that sounds, I wouldn't want to do that. So
those are some good, kind of poking fun at Star Trek too. I think we were worried they wouldn't do that or something, but they've had some good, bits where they make fun of, how kind of uptight or, stuffy Star Trek is sometimes.
Yeah. Or yeah, just doing executive poker, but just everybody being terrible at poker. I always wondered why everybody on the Enterprise was so good at poker. Like, they're all like these poker sharks. But yeah, probably it would just be, I fold. I don't know.
Well, it's different where you don't have someone who is like a hyper intelligent android or an empath. Yeah. Or someone who can probably see through the cards.
Right. Yeah.
These are just they're kind of basic.
I did like that this episode does finally we get an episode where we put Mariner out of her comfort zone and give her something that ostensibly somebody would want, but it turns into a big hassle and pain for her that she's got to wiggle her way out of. I thought it was interesting. Boimler, on the other hand, gets his little B or maybe C plot where he also wants to be, a real bad boy, so he can get the promotion that he's looking for. And I didn't think that he wasn't given really as much time to really explore that. Like, I wonder if he's just going to blow up at some point and kill everybody, or because he just keeps. He's the Elmer Fudd character, that just while Mariner keeps Bugs Bunnying, out of things, he's just why does he keep getting away?
Yeah, I forgot anything he did actually in this episode. I remember he poured the coffee.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the coffee was it, right?
Yeah, and that and he was taking advantage of the leveled up replicators that the other gets to eat from.
To get some breaded mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Tendi has a pretty big side plot in this, which I thought was good because we hadn't seen much for her up to this point. I didn't get any specific like species or anything like that, but I take it that this guy is supposed to be kind of like the guy from that TNG episode, Transmogrifications or whatever it was, right? The guy that like turns into Bev falls in love with him. He turns into energy at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I don't remember this one.
It's not that great, but but I thought it was interesting that they related it to spirituality in a way, like having Tendi walk in and where everybody is in lotus position and they're all meditating. It made me go like, what would people in the 24th century think about meditation? Because they take every chance they can get to tell us that we don't believe in spooks and ghosts and goblins or whatever anymore. But I wonder if they would, I'm sure they respect other cultures' religions, but if they would think of meditation as like a useful technique to use or what?
I think they would.
I'd like to believe that they would, sure.
I feel like at a certain point it's like, I don't want to call it scientific, but I feel like it, like it helps you, like it centers you. I don't know.
Sure.
What I kind of liked that, like he didn't actually believe it. So that is the insight. Is that like maybe he does think it's nonsense, but then it works or whatever. So I liked actually the kind of like it's sort of an anti-Star Trek twist, where it's like this he does get caught up in the spirituality that he thought wasn't real.
Yeah. And then they have to have one little additional twist of the knife at the end where it's like, oh my God, this hurts so much. Wow.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny, honestly.
That actually got me. I've been kind of like, I would like to have a buddy that I'm watching this with, because sometimes I can't tell, like, is the show funny? Because I'm not really, I'm watching it by myself, and I know it's not like hilarious because I would be laughing even by myself, but I'm just kind of like, okay, But that joke actually was like, that was pretty good.
That's a question that we've asked on this
show. Is the show funny?
Yeah, I feel like there's a line that I've stolen very often from the series Parks and Recreation, where a character says that something has the cadence of a joke, and that's why he laughed at it. And I feel like a lot of the stuff in this show is like that. It's like, but like, that's a joke, right? It's like, well, it's a joke if it, does the things that jokes do, which is like kind of subvert what's going on and maybe references something, but not like reference, Captain Pike. Captain Pike is just saying that isn't a joke.
Yeah. And
there's parts where, like, I thought the idea of taking Mariner and then promoting her, and then she's got to sit through all this stuff, that's a great little bit, and you can milk a lot out of it. But all the things they milked were like first pitches, in my opinion. They were all like, the guy who is playing his guitar. Okay, good. And he lived in Spain for a month. That's all right. But then, like, you have to go to ops. You have to go to ops to talk about ops. It's like, all right, well, that's kind of a placeholder. It's like they're like a joke. Like, I feel like everything could be punched up a lot, even though it's got the structure of, of a comedy. It's got the skeleton of a comedy, but where's the flesh?
When that guy turns around, though, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't see you beam up there." I was that's kind of, it's dumb, but that was funny.
The Federation of Characters, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
What about the like scatting thing, though? I thought that was an okay one because it again kind of like hit at something that like the Star Trek writers will present as like something like cultured or something and like ancient. But then it's like when you go back and watch that now in the early 90s context, it seems kind of like dated and cheesy, That seems like something that would show up in like, a 93 episode of TNG, like a character who loves like jazz fusion or something,
Yeah, like what's the worst thing they could do? a one-man show or jazz fusion. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, this is the 24th century, and there's all these thousands of cultures in the Federation. Like, you can do whatever you want. I had this thought the other day, and I was like thinking about the fact that apparently I didn't know this, and I don't think maybe I've read the wrong interviews, but I don't think they've been totally forthcoming about this. But I guess the show is canon. And I don't think that I don't think that it really matters either way. It would definitely worry too much about canon in Star Trek. But I think that when you're creating a show like this and you're already pushing, all the characters are like petty and venal and assholes. And you wonder, like, they're already pushing up against what you'd really want to display a Starfleet officer as. Why worry about it being canon? Like, Rick and Morty has a canon, I guess, but it doesn't worry week to week about really what's going on. And this show definitely wants to be Rick and Morty. So I think that if they just said, none of this is really real, the ship could blow up every week, like Gooey suggested. If they worried a little less about it actually being another chapter in the Star Trek story, I think maybe they'd have more room to do crazy things.
Yeah, I guess I never thought that could be holding it back, because there hasn't been a moment yet where I'm like, oh, if only this element wasn't canon or something, like it could break free from that.
A specific element.
Yeah, because then does that mean, like, are the jokes literal? You know, like, and I hope this is true, that like Miles O'Brien is the most important officer in Starfleet history. I believe it to be true, so I'll take that as canon.
Me too. The accent and the curls alone.
Yeah,
he's really starred in that show.
I felt like that. I felt like that was a kind of sly reference to Chief O'Brien at Work. You know, the webcomic.
Oh yeah.
But the whole point of Chief O'Brien at Work is that he is not essential in any way. He lives like this existential hell where he just stands in a room. So I don't know if they were just referencing that, or if maybe they were answering that. Like, no, he really is the most important guy in Starfleet. But I just didn't get, I've seen a lot of people really like that, and they're sharing it a lot as a meme, which, I mean, we all like Chief O'Brien, but I didn't really get, like, why they did that. And, and honestly, I'm okay with the characters being, like, dicks. Like, that's, I've been thinking and talking about, cool. Yeah, I've been thinking and talking about comedy in Star Trek a lot, like, on my various shows, just for, probably because of the start of Lower Decks, but one of the reasons that I think I figured out that like TNG and like regular Star Trek isn't funny is that the characters are too perfect. You need to have buffoons, you need to have people with flaws, and it's hard to do a joke unless Data doesn't get a metaphor or something, and then we can do that. And so, yeah, they definitely all have to be jerks, but how does the ship get from place to place? Everybody on it is just yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe that is where it's not worrying about canon, because like the ship actually wouldn't function in Starfleet as we know it at this point in time.
Well, not
like
without their buffer time.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I also wish maybe because I don't think the jokes are that funny. Like maybe that's also why I think it should just be a kid's show, because instead of like, oh, that's the cadence of the joke, it's like, oh, it's just like a light-hearted touch, it's just like it's for kids, or like it's whimsical or something. That's
people's
I just
pants
wish
are falling down, and
yeah, that's just maybe me trying to justify some of the kind of lame jokes, is that I wouldn't be mad at them if you told me it was for kids.
I don't know. Discovery's funny.
Yeah. It's got more.
Did you guys hear?
There's times where it's a bit too, like,
too funny. Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't do a news segment at the beginning of this because I couldn't think of any news, but I just realized there is news. CBS has announced that they are going to broadcast the first season of Discovery on CBS on TV.
Ooh.
Which is good news, but now we got to bleep those swears that they're so proud of.
Interesting. Oh my god. I think it's better. I think it's funnier when they're bleeped.
Yeah.
In Lower Decks. Honestly, yeah. I don't mind. I think it's better.
Okay.
Yeah. Although, I mean, you have to kind of work out what the filters are for. And by the way,
what makes it so much funnier, though? He's
Why?
like, get the bleep out of the bleep filter. And you're like, the what? Out of the way?
Just assuming that it's jizz. Why are they filtering the
Me
jizz?
too.
Do they need only the purest jizz? Doesn't it all just go down a drain?
You need it out of the holosuite.
She's got to, plunge the drains in the holodeck floor.
Ew.
Oh my!
I really like. I said before the Genesis goo or the terraforming goo or whatever it was called. I thought that was. I really liked that. I thought that was cool, and it doesn't just like turn a tricorder into a flower. Like it creates, rocks and minerals and structures, and when it was taking over the ship, that was really neat.
I like the twist on it too because it's like inorganic, so it's like it hits the tricorder. It's like takes the technology.
Yeah,
it's different than like Genesis. You put on just like a rock and it turns it
Genesis.
into something.
Yeah. Gooey and I just watched Wrath of Khan for backtracking. So.
Yeah, so it feels like everybody, to me, in my world, it feels like everybody just watched Wrath of Khan and they know what I'm talking about.
Watch out! Here comes Genesis. Yeah. Anything
That was
else?
a great impression.
Thank you. Anything else you guys can think of or want to say about this episode?
I don't know about this episode, but I feel like I want more of like, it's lower decks, right? And they all sleep on those bunks in like the hallway, and I want more of like,
Where do they change?
almost like a boot camp. Oh my god, I know. I want more. I want to see them with like a shower caddy. Like I want
Yeah.
like more. I want it to feel like boot camp. I want it to feel like they're like boot camp or like summer camp where you're just kind of like in it. You're always together. Like I need some more of that. I feel like I enjoy poking fun at the commanding officers, but I need more of like just lower decks, like them in the hallway with the lights out and people are walking by, or like I don't even know. I need more of it.
You got to wear your flip flops in the Starship Troopers showers that I'm imagining they have.
Yeah.
I apologize. I have to verge into other podcast territory again because this just answered. I had a question about in Star Trek Into Darkness why Carol Marcus just changes in the shuttlecraft or whatever. It's because she didn't have a room.
She was a lower decks officer. Yeah, that's what it was.
I guess she wasn't on the ship's log, so
She just used to it. Yeah.
So thank you, lower decks. I didn't realize that.
Being like, turn around.
I love that element of the show because I always just assumed like everyone gets a room. It's a big old ship,
Right. Yeah. I guess we don't know exactly how big the saucer is. I'm just guessing it's not as big as like a Galaxy class, but yeah, they got him down in steerage.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
Also, can the commanding officers, get better food?
I guess so.
What's the point of a replicator?
Well, look, they're not hungry. They're just eating crappy food. There's still a hierarchy of rank that they follow. Everybody's equal, but some are more equal than others.
I just want to believe that if I ever went into Starfleet that I could have breaded mac and cheese out of the replicator whenever I wanted, but it would have like no calories because they just made it for me.
Right.
Like it's the dream.
Yeah, or get your double fudge sundae whenever you want. I was watching an episode of Enterprise the other day, and Travis was talking to some other boomer captain, and he gave him the guy was eating like a steak and a baked potato, and I was like, is that a real steak or is that like resequenced protein or whatever? Because they talk about their chef, and they must have a hold full of those breadsticks, those crunchy like garlic breadsticks that they're always eating. The costume designer's like, just get something that's dry. We can vacuum up the crumbs. We don't want any stains on the jumpsuits.
Oh yeah. I like that we're starting to see a class system come in what I thought was like a classless society,
Sure.
A utopia.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm proud of the show for that.
I want to see I want to see them meet a race that is like all the bad things that could happen with the Federation. So they have ships like the Federation, but everybody gets a turn at being the captain. So like they're never that efficient and like, oh, we need this fixed. Yeah, but I just don't feel like doing yoga today. And And they're just not very efficient, and so it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe we need a structure, an authority system.
Just a little bit. Small one.
That'd be a good Lower Decks episode, so put that on the screen, cowards.
If only there were a show that could make this happen.
It's too bad this is live because you're pitching all your good ideas out there.
Well, that one's gone.
Trademark.
Yeah, right. Yeah, verbal trademark.
You can't take it. Copyright.
We haven't, in backtracking, we've never kept in when I talk about how Star Trek should have battle bots, right?
I think that one went out today, actually.
Dang it.
But, yeah. You talking the sumo flip or something like that.
Yeah, I want to see some ships slam hard into each other.
Well, okay, we'll do a little backtracking plug. We were talking about on every show we watch a piece of media that inspired a Star Trek episode or film, and so we on our most recent episode we read the short story and watched the movie adaptation of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which is, about this guy who he daydreams and he's kind of unfocused. And on every show, we also do what we call a technological exchange, where we pick a random Trek technology from a list. We take that technology away from the Star Trek episode. We add it to the movie or TV show that's not Trek to see how things are changed around. And I think we got like phasers for that one. So we were trying to figure out how you could get into a fight, in space without phasers. And we thought, it's like bumper ships, right? Everybody would have like armor or like Mad Max spikes on their ships. You'd have like starships crashing into each other.
Mad Max.
Yeah, I really want to see that. And then Gooey's idea was they would flip each other over. Although you're in space, so I'm not sure how that changes things.
Like a turtle.
Oh my God, we're upside down.
Or I would build a ship that's just two big Hulk hands, and they just start punching.
They go.
Just two fists
Smash.
Slam.
All right, well, we have definitely given away too many ideas at this point, so I think we will bring it to a close. Yeah, copyright. That's it for our show this week. Thank you for joining us, listeners. And if you like what you hear, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTPOD for updates and to get notified when new episodes of Discoverage and Enterprising Individuals are released. And you can tweet to us on the show by using the hashtag Discoverage, or you can email us at EISTpod@gmail.com. Also, while you're on the internet, why not head to your listening platform of choice and subscribe to our show feed. Give us a rating and a review. It really helps out. And if you want to help the show grow, stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/EISTpod. And as always, if you like the show, tell a friend. Discoverage will return on September 3rd for the 5th episode of Season 1 of Lower Decks, entitled We Don't Know. The name has not been announced yet, but we'll be here next Thursday to cover it, whatever it will be called. We'll be going live once again at 7 p.m. Central, so join us then. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook at EISTpod to get notified when we're live and broadcasting. And in the meantime, check out our main show at Enterprising Individuals at enterprisingindividuals.com. Every Wednesday on the show, I'm joined by a special guest to discuss in excruciating detail a selected episode from a Star Trek series. We also have news from the Trek sphere and interviews with special guests, and our latest episode just dropped, and on it, I'm joined by New York Times bestselling author Catherine M. Valenti to talk about the classic TNG episode, The Game, in which we see that Wesley Crusher has got a little game himself. He does all right. He's all grown up. You can check that out at enterprisingindividuals.com. Ella, thanks for joining us to talk about tonight's episode of Lower Decks. Remind people where they can find you online.
Thank you. My podcast with my dad is called Generations Geek. So we are at Generations Geek on social media and wherever you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. And Gooey, it's always great to have you on. Thanks for being on. Where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Gooey Fame, and we did extended plugs for everything else I do, so go check out that stuff.
Yeah, if you want to hear two men somehow make it through talking about the 2013 film Secret Life of Walter Mitty, stop on by for that one.
You know what? Great soundtrack, though. I have it on
Oh,
Spotify.
boy. Gooey, this is it! This is what we wondered about!
We got the Arcade Fire fans.
We got it! Okay, all right. So anyway, if you want to know what that's about, listen to it if you dare. But that is it for us for this week. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we are signing off. And this is Aaron for Ella and Gooey saying, live long and prosper.